Hello everyone, in today's video we are going to discuss about the 5 important editorials of the week with respect to UPSC mains point of view. So what we are going to do is we are going to pick the 5 important editorials which have come in the past 1 week and we are just going to discuss the important points that we have to note down for mains. Generally people used to struggle for while taking notes of the editorials. So if this video will help those who are struggling to take notes from the editorials. Okay. So what we are going to do is we will be identifying the 5 important points from each editorials which can be the potential notes for the mains preparation. So let us go into the video. So today we are going to discuss about the 5 editorial, one dealing the quad formation and Malabar exercise which came on the Monday, and next is about the railway reforms and privatization of railways, and the third editorial is about the India-China policy and what should be the right policies. So this editorial was written by the former National Security Advisor. And fourth editorial is about the Jammu and Kashmir internet connection. Because ever since the government of India annulled the Article 370, this Jammu and Kashmir's internet connection is in the news. So that editorial deals about that. And finally, we are going to discuss about this whole case of anti-defection law and the Rajasthan issue amidst the Sachin pilot crisis. So these are all the 5 editorials which we are going to discuss. So let us go to the first editorial. So let us discuss the first editorial. We all know that India conducts an exercise called Malabar exercise. So this Malabar exercise consists of India, USA and Japan. All these 3 navies will conduct Malabar exercise in Indian Ocean region. The main aim is to joint patrol and to share the common navy standards. But indirectly this Malabar exercise aims to counter China. Okay, it aims to counter China and it is strategically against China to check China's growth in the Indian Ocean region. So parallelly, there is another organization called Quad. The Quad was formed between India, USA, Japan and along with them Australia. The main aim of this Quad was a political dialogue group. So what they are going to do is they will be handling the political dialogues with the aim of establishing the peace and rule based order in South China Sea. So now what happened recently, there was a speculation in media that New Delhi could soon invite Australia to join the Malabar exercise. By asking the Australia to join Malabar exercise, a ramification of this is that this Quad will convert into a military alliance. What this article is asking is whether it is a right time to form a military alliance against China with the help of other nations. Whether this forming of military alliance or converting of this Malabar exercise into a Quad initiative and a military cooperation will really help India on the ground. So that is a question, and author deals with the same question in the editorial. So the first point is what is the strategic rationale behind the Quad. Here USA and Japan focus on Asia Pacific. So USA and Japan are focusing on Asia Pacific with respect to the South China Sea issues, but India focuses on Indian Ocean region. So the focus itself is different. So India is focusing on the Indian Ocean region, but USA and Japan are focusing in the Asia Pacific related issue and South China Sea crisis. So by joining Quad, whether the USA and Japan will show the interest on the Indian Ocean also. So that is a very big question mark. USA and Japan are not interested in the Indian Ocean related politics. The second point is that by converting this Quad into a military alliance, by joining it in Malabar exercise, India might be unnecessarily pulled into the issues of South China Sea. So India might be pulled into that, but what India will get into return? Will the navies of Japan and USA will come and constantly patrol in Indian Ocean in support of India? Will they be regularly posted there? No, they won't be regularly posted there for India or constantly patrol. They will just come and do the exercise and go. But what benefit India gets from this? So that is a question we have to consider now. There is every possibility that military Quad will be used to draw India into the security dynamics of Asia Pacific and Japan. Asia Pacific. Japan and USA have very little capacity, so they are not having capacity to provide the separate navy ships for India for the patrol in Indian Ocean region. So they are not going to stay there constantly. So that is another issue. So India might not get back anything tangibly from this initiative. India will benefit only if there is a technology transfer. So how India will benefit means, so India can benefit if India uses this Quad for asking USA and Japan to provide the technology for submarine warfare. So by getting the technology for submarine warfare, India can equip its capacity to face the submarine related threats from China. So India needs the submarine related technology, but USA is denying. So what India should do, instead of just making it a namesake exercise or an initiative, India can ask USA to provide the actual technology through which India can increase its surveillance in the Indian Ocean region. So that is one thing. Next, timing and manifestation. The plan. So plan here means People Liberation Army. So generally China calls its armed forces as People's Liberation Army. So plan means People Liberation Army's Navy. So the Navy of China is yet to physically threaten India. So till now China hasn't posed the same threat which it poses in the South China Sea. In South China Sea it is doing a lot of atrocities, but still now there isn't any big large atrocity committed by China in the Indian Ocean. So if you could see, Chinese warship have not challenged the Indian sovereignty in the India's territorial waters, nor they have ventured close to the India's islands with any malign intent, nor the Navy of China's assets have impeded the passage of the Indian vessels. So Indian ships has never been disturbed by China's army till now. China's navy till now. If without any big manifestation, if India just starts the issue, then what will happen? Unnecessarily in the navy area or in Indian Ocean, India will start a new issue. As of now, the issue is going only in the LAC, line of actual control. By doing this, it might create a new issue in the Indian Ocean also. So unnecessarily India should not manifest the situation now. So that is the next warning. And finally, upgrading the Malabar exercise into a quadrilateral without acquiring the actual capacity or deterrent capacity might benefit India in the short run, but will never benefit India in the long run. What might appear politically sensible because of this the nationalistic political tone in India might be supportive of this move, but in long run it is going to create more problems to India, because India might unnecessarily increase unnecessarily pull China into the Indian Ocean region for a conflict, because Chinese now they are in the bad mood and they might create any issue now, so they are ready to create some problem. So in this time India should not be instigating China to do something in Indian Ocean also. So the move should be calculative and it should be beneficial to India. So these are all the 5 warnings which he is giving, so which we have to note for the GS2 mains answer rating. If there is a question regarding mains in the mains regarding Quad or Asia Pacific or Indo Pacific or India China, we can use these points in our mains answers. So that is the main aim of this editorial. So the second editorial is regarding the big reforms on the wrong track. It is about the Indian Railways privatization reform. Recently Indian government decided to allow the private players to operate the trains, and the railway board also released certain guidelines of how the private players will be operating. So based on that only this editorial, the planned privatization of some services of Indian Railways could impact the maintenance, operations and welfare. What are all the problems? The railway, Indian Railways is the lifeline of India. With its vast network across the length and breadth of India, it is not just a mere transporter of passenger and goods. It is not just going to be the transporter, but also there is some intent of social welfare. It also acts as a social welfare organization, because if you could think, so rail is a poor man's vehicle and it is a poor and middle class people who use the trains, okay, not the richer ones. Because of the low fares, and the fares are always capped, and government generally aims to keep the fares at the controlled rate. Hence it is seen as a social welfare organization. But privatization of railways and allowing private players to participate, what will happen? Whether it will still continue as a social welfare organization, that is a very important question. And apart from that, this editorial also raises few important questions regarding the reforms. Okay, so the first point to be noted is conflict in everyday exercise and responsibility. The government has decided to give the private investor the responsibility of procurement, investment in procurement and maintenance of the coaches only. So the private player will just do the investment in procurement. The private player will buy the coaches and private player will maintain the coaches. But the train operations and the safety and dealing of the tracks, everything will be still done by the Indian government's Indian Railways only. Now, if at all an accident or if at all any issues arises on it, who will take the responsibility? Because two of them are being allowed to operate in the same area here. Now, so who is going to take the responsibility and who is going to solve the issues arising is a very big question which needs to be checked. So having two players in the same time is not good. Either it should be totally government or it should be totally private, and allowing some government and some to private is not going to work with respect to railways. So that is one thing. Second, the main aim of the government to go to privatization is to improve the efficiency and technology. So instead, what government can do? Government can itself focus on upgradation of the coaches with new technology transfer. The coaches in India are not of international standard. Whatever coach we are using is of very old technology and old standards. So what government can do is, instead of expecting a private sector to come in and to do the technology upgradation, so that is the ultimate aim of the government. By allowing private sector, it is thinking that the technology will come in and quality efficiency will come in. But why private sector should come and do? Government itself can do that, right? Government can use its power to enhance the diplomacy and bring in the technology transfer. See, in previous article also it talked about the technology transfer. Here also the same. With the technology transfer, ICF itself can manufacture the most high quality coaches. So that is more than enough, instead of just asking a private sector to participate. And also by raising the speed of the operation. The Indian trains maximum they operate at 90 km/h only. Sometimes they go to 110. But so that is itself is creating some inefficiency. So if you want to alleviate inefficiency, instead of calling private player, just increase the speed of operation. Increase it to 160 km/h. So for that, what they have to do? Just you have to do the track strengthening. Do the track strengthening, eliminate the curves and level crossing gates. So all the level crossing gates should be replaced by the bridges, either foot over bridge or the under bridge, and strengthening of the bridges. So that is more than enough. Okay. It also calls for the track fencing. If the train is passing through densely populated areas at 160 km/h, then the track should be fenced at both the sides, so that the train doesn't derail and go into the settlements. So that can be done. If that is being focused, then surely the quality will improve. So that is one suggestion the author is telling. Then fixing fares. So government, what it has done, it has left to the private players to fix the fares. See, we all know railways is the poor man's vehicle or the common man's vehicle. So if that is the case, allowing the private player to fix the fare will no more keep the railways the common man's entity. So it will keep the railways beyond the people's reach, because the private players will aim at keeping high fares. So this is what happened with respect to the buses. When private buses were allowed to operate, the fares just went shot up. So and they are not having any accountability with respect to fares also. So private player might not provide affirmative action in employment. If you could see, railways is not only the largest connector of India, but also it is providing one of the largest employment opportunities for the people in the government sector. So if railways is going to private, the private sector might not provide reservation or affirmative action for the people while employing. So the downtrodden or the depressed classes might not get the employment opportunities, like when the government provides them the employment opportunities. Former Prime Minister Nehru once said that the aim of the railways is not only to provide the comfort and convenience of travel, but also provide huge employment opportunities to the downtrodden and the depressed classes, and alleviate the poor out of the poverty. So if the private sector is given the role, the reservations which are already provided might continue or not. That will be a very big question mark. So instead of going for the blatant privatization, so what government can do? Government can follow the Hyderabad metro model or the IRCTC model. In Hyderabad metro model, it is a PPP model where entire operation of Hyderabad metro is given to the private sector. The private sector is responsible for daily maintenance, operation, passenger amenities and staff issues, etc. The state government will step in when it comes to land, power and other law and order related issues. So in land acquisition, general regulatory issues only the government will come, and entirely it is given to private. Either give entirely to private or follow the IRCTC model. There is already we have created the private sector entity called Indian Railway Catering and Tourism Corporation, which is a government owned private company. So it is not directly under Indian Railways. It is a private company which is working for Indian Railways. So instead of directly going to the private sector, we can provide that opportunity to IRCTC. Let us first allow IRCTC to operate as a private operator. Like already they are operating the Tejas Express. On the similar lines, let us allow the IRCTC to do the work. If IRCTC is working well and the model is efficient, then we can extend it to all the private players to participate. We have to do the wait and watch approach instead of directly going into the privatization. So that is what the author is intending to tell in this particular article. So the next article is about the counter China policy. Now, so China has been creating a lot of border skirmishes, and it is assertive in the recent times. So in this time, and we all know what happened in the line of actual control. So in this time, how to handle China? So we should be very careful in analyzing the intentions of China and making a policy. So India should not directly jump into a war and create a military conflict. No. So instead, it should do a calculated move understanding the China's intentions and China's current situation. So that is what the author M.K. Narayanan, the former National Security Advisor to Prime Minister of India, wants it. Advantages of editorials is that the best brains of the nations will be writing the editorial, so it is always beneficial. So points to be noted in this particular editorial is that first we have to understand the China's intent. At this time we should not make our decisions in haste. So we should calculate the intention of China. So that is what the first thing. So whether China wants to capture territory, is that the intent of China in doing all these things? No. China is trying to dominate the geostrategic space. It wants to send signal to USA that it is a dominant player in Asia and it is coming to capture its place. So it is just signaling for the USA and the world. When the Trump is so antagonizing against China, it is just wants to signal and show its assertiveness. Rowdyism is a colloquial word, but if you write dominating the geostrategic space, it will be very technical and your answers will be so cool. So use such kind of words, okay? And if you could also see, China is also not aiming for a war. China doesn't want war now. It just wants to show its banda. That's it. So because China is also having this aim of Make in China or China Standards 2035. So it wants to boost its manufacturing facility to further highest level so that it is beating the USA's GDP. So that is their aim. China wants to beat with the USA with respect to GDP. So if it is when it is having such ambition, it will never create a very big war like situation and destabilize its economy. Already COVID-19 is doing that. So at this time China will never expect for a war. At the same time it won't lose India as its customer also. India is the largest importer of Chinese goods. So it won't lose such a customer also. So we have to calculatively measure the China's intention. It cannot afford to jeopardize its future with a war. Okay. So what China wants to do, just it wants to show its assertiveness in the border. So what India must do now? India should strengthen its border capacity. So instead of going into war, construct more roads in border, increase your border capacity, create a separate mountain strike crops division, create a separate experts who will do the maneuvers in the mountainous regions, that is the mountainous border. So we have to create a separate mountain strike crop divisions under the army instead of thinking about the war. Or second, India should also see other cost-effective non-military actions. Military action only is not the solution. Non-military actions are also many cost-effective actions are there which India can use. So at this time, India should use its all diplomatic channel to create an image against China as an aggressor, okay, and India as a peace-loving nation. So that should be the only aim of India now instead of going at loggerheads. So use the diplomacy and create situation vulnerable to China. You can easily create a vulnerable situation to your opposition even without firing a bullet. So that we have to do now. That's what we are doing it with respect to Pakistan for so many years. So the same thing we can do with China also. We can utilize the initiatives like non-alignment movement, like NAM or other technical aid programs. So we are having this NAM where we are having a lot of developing nations in it. So India can use such bodies to create opinion against China and to get support. At the same time, India is also providing a lot of technical aids to African nations. India is also giving some technical aids. China is giving financial aid. Okay, China is giving financial aid to poor nation. But intention of China in providing financial aid is to create the political and economic subjugation. Okay, China by providing this financial aid is doing political and economic subjugation. But India through its technical aid, it aims at development of such poor nations. So there is this difference. So India should revive this technical aid program and revitalize the non-aligned movement and create and expose the China's intentions in the world. Fourthly, messaging. So India should use the social media for messaging the world. India should create a narrative against China in the social media by using the social media platform to maximum level. Okay. So gaining support in the social media is the modern trend. So India should use it, and particularly what India should do, instead of going and forming a quad, calling Australia or Japan and USA. So it is having link with the first article which we discussed. Instead of going and forming a quad and strengthening it, creating Malabar exercise, make your neighbors your friends first. First go and solve the dispute with Nepal and make them your friend. Solve the dispute with Bangladesh and make them your friend. Bring Iran into your ambit. Bring Vietnam into your ambit. All the four nations are also suffering because of Chinese ambitions. You make all the force of China towards yourself. Instead of going to some larger force like USA or to Japan, you make this Nepal, Bangladesh, Iran, Vietnam your friend instead. So by doing so, India can get a regional assertion. So by getting that regional assertion, we can easily oppose the China. So that is one thing. And finally, entire nation should be united. The united India should, while operating with China, entire nation should be united and resilient. Okay, we should not be divided among ourselves with respect to handling China. And finally, we till 2014, Dalai Lama was provided an important role in India. So Dalai Lama was seen as a spiritual head, religious head, and also he was seen as the leader of the Tibetan people. But and which was irritating China. And we were using this Dalai Lama thing to tackle China also. So indirectly, we are signaling China also. But after 2014, the new government started to appease China by avoiding Dalai Lama from the politics. So what we have to do, we have to give that same prominence to Dalai Lama. So that will act as a soft power in attracting the opinions of Tibetans. So India should not desert Dalai Lama and instead revive back the Dalai Lama as an enduring symbol of the Tibetan Buddhists and also the Buddhists who are living all over the world. We will get the good intent of all those people, and that will also act as a signaling against China. So we should not we should change our recent Chinese appeasement of avoiding Dalai Lama. So that is one thing. So by doing all these things, India still can avoid the military conflict and use the non-military actions to tackle China, and that thing we have to do. That is what the author is telling in this particular editorial. So the next editorial is about the Jammu and Kashmir and the internet. So what happened, we all know that the article 370 of constitution, which provides special status to Jammu and Kashmir, was partially repealed and it took away the special status. So after doing so, government thought that there will be a huge protest and there will be riots in Jammu and Kashmir. In order to prevent all those things, it suspended the internet. Okay, so it suspended the internet on August 4th itself. I think actual annihilation took place on August 6th, but they suspended all the internet connection and all the communication link in Jammu and Kashmir in August 4, 2019. So it's going to be a year, but still the internet connection is not restored in the full extent in Jammu and Kashmir. So for the past 1 year, the people of Jammu and Kashmir are not having access to internet. So imagine not having access to internet for months. So that's why they have given this title. So government, they are subjugating the people of Jammu and Kashmir and they are not giving them the internet and they are using the law to subjugate them. That's why are the people of Jammu and Kashmir citizens? Do they have rights or they are just subjects? They are subjected to the orders of the nation. So that is what the question of this entire article is. When the case was filed in Supreme Court against the cutting down of internet, Supreme Court is also not utilizing its power, and Supreme Court also was reluctant in providing the rights to the people. Even Supreme Court didn't do this role, so that is what this author is complaining. So both the authors are actually, one author, Gautam Bhatia, is a Delhi High Court lawyer, and Sudhit Pathsarathy is a Madras High Court lawyer. So two High Court lawyers are complaining that Supreme Court has done little to enforce its writ. So that is the ultimate theme of this entire article. It's nearly a year since they have had the 4G internet, and Supreme Court has done little to enforce its writ. So the points to be noted is, so actually this article is a timeline based article where the timeline of events is being discussed rather than the suggestions or points. So let us understand the timeline of events. So since the internet was suspended, first the case was filed. The petition was filed in the Supreme Court stating to restore the internet connection, and that case is called as Anuradha Bhasin versus Union of India. So the petitioner claimed that government, when government is coming and suspending the services, they should provide the reasons for the suspension. But government is not providing any reasons, and refusal of government to make the orders public. Government is not making the suspension order public at all. So in that order only they would have stated, because of this reason only we are suspending, there is this threat because of this internet. Government should say that there is some threat, because of that threat only we are cutting down the internet. But government never made this order public, and hence citizens are being denied to know the reason. So petitioner asked that government should provide the reasons for the annulment, and the petitioner also used various facts to say that there is no link between the national security and internet shutdown. Okay, actually there is no merit in saying that if we suspend internet, the national security will be ensured. So that evidence also was given in Anuradha Bashan versus Union of India case. So the petitioner also said that government, instead of taking the entire internet connection, would have done certain less restrictive option. Less restrictive action means those websites that is creating problems can be banned, could have banned, or individuals who are creating problems could have been identified. They would have been arrested, or they could have been restricted. Instead of punishing the entire state, the individual who is creating problems could have been arrested, or the website which is creating problem could have been banned. So government never considered the less restrictive option, and it directly went for the full shutdowns. In that judgment, what the government's Supreme Court said was, they recognized that ability to access web has an instrumental bearing on number of other fundamental rights, including rights to free speech, right to freedom of business, and thereby placing any restriction on the internet should be proportionate. So the intention of the government to take away the rights should be proportionate with the objective which they are trying to achieve. See, here they are cutting down the internet. So by cutting down the internet, what government wants to achieve, whether that reason given by the government is right or not. Therefore, the limitation placed on the web must be necessary and proportionate to the goal set by the state. So there should be always this proportionality. So what the judgment stated was, there is this rules called Temporary Suspension of Telecom Services Rule 2017. So this rule was brought by Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY, in 2017. So it is called as Ministry of Electronics Information Technology. So that's why it is called as MeitY. So MeitY brought this rule in 2017. So what this rule said, when government can temporarily suspend the telecom services, and what all the rules should be followed by the government and how it should be controlled, all those things were listed there. So based on, in that rule only, there is a provision. What is a provision means, whenever the government is suspending the internet, for every week there should be a review. But government didn't follow this the same rule which they said when they were cutting down the internet in Jammu and Kashmir. So what Supreme Court said, they asked the government to follow these rules and establish a weekly review committee. So a committee should be formed under the chairmanship of district magistrate or other government officials to review the decision every week. Like whenever there is this national emergency, we will be reviewing the national emergency for every 6 months. So similarly, this decision should be reviewed every week. So that's what the committee ordered. So here Supreme Court would have scrapped the internet suspension, but instead of being saving the rights of the people, it just supported the forming the committee. So what happened now, government had to come and say in public why it suspended the internet. So government, instead of telling it explicitly, the report which they released was not very clear. The message, the reason which they said was also not clear. So that is one issue. Another issue is that still the internet was never restored. What was restored was, they provided the 2G services. Instead of providing 4G, they just provided 2G, and in the 2G also they whitelisted. So whitelisting means complete internet is shut, only certain websites will be visible. So blacklisting means what? Complete internet will be available, only certain website will not be available. That is blacklisting. So whitelisting means complete internet will be shut and only certain websites will be available. So government just provided 2G services with whitelisting. Imagine now in this COVID pandemic time, without internet, how badly they will be suffering. So entire education is provided through the online only. All are buying goods from the online shopping only. And most of the entertainment also, like we are watching movies in online only. So if that is the case, not providing internet and 4G services is a very big subjugation of people. Since only 2G was provided even during the COVID, since after the COVID, a second petition was filed. Improper implementation of Supreme Court judgment and COVID-19 crisis provided a need for 4G services. So, and hence the second petition was filed. Supreme Court verified the second petition and it ordered that, okay, now the committee formed is not doing the functions well, so we'll order another 3-member committee under the Home Secretary. So Home Secretary under Ministry of Home Affairs will be head of this committee, and this committee will review the what? They will review the internet annulment. So it is an irony. The same Ministry of Home Affairs only is controlling the Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir is a union territory and it is controlled by Ministry of Home Affairs only. The same Home Affairs only is going to review whether the suspension of internet is right or wrong. So it is a very big irony. So the irony here is, a person cannot be his own judge. Supreme Court, instead of again supporting people, it has taken the power by the committee formed by temporary suspension. In previous slide we saw this temporary suspension of telecom services. So it took away the power of that committee and gave it to a new committee which is headed by Home Secretary. And finally, even after the judgment, what happened? The committee was never formed at all. Supreme Court judgment was never followed and the committee was never formed, and 4G was not yet restored when government was asked about it. So even after the second judgment also no committee was formed and 4G was not restored. Okay, since no committee was formed, a contempt proceeding was filed against the government in the Supreme Court. This again, after filing the contempt proceeding, then government came and responded. Then government formed a committee, and then the government said that it will provide the recommendation of committee in the sealed envelope to the judges. Again, government is also procrastinating. Supreme Court also, what it said, Supreme Court is still hearing the case, and we have to wait for the final judgment of the contempt case. What here Supreme Court is doing, even after 1 year, instead of standing by the rights of the people, it is just supporting the suspension of internet. So this editorial was more like timeline based editorial instead of factual based. By reading this editorial, we can understand what happened in this entire Jammu and Kashmir case. So why this editorial is important means, while writing any answers, if there is a question regarding internet suspension or right to freedom of expression or the Jammu and Kashmir issue itself, we would have known the details of the entire history. We would have known what happened in the Anuradhar Bhasin judgment and what the Supreme Court ordered. We can also criticize Supreme Court. If there is a question regarding Supreme Court, for criticism we can use it. Supreme Court failed to do its provision. So like that we can use the reasonable criticism by showing this as an example in itself. Okay. So that is what the author intends in this article. The final article is about the famous Sachin Pilot issue which is taking place in Rajasthan. What happened? Let us briefly discuss what happened in Rajasthan. So in Rajasthan, Sachin Pilot and 18 other MLAs together. So Sachin Pilot itself is an MLA. So 19 MLAs objected the functioning of the CM, and they decided not to attend the meetings of the legislature. So legislature party meetings, they instead of not attending the meetings, they stayed away from that. Since they stayed away from the party line, under anti-defection law, we all know anti-defection law under the 10th schedule of the constitution empowers the speaker of the legislature to take action. If an MLA is not following the guidelines given by the party, then and the party members, if they come and complain to speaker under anti-defection law can disqualify the MLAs. And similarly, the few MLAs came and complained to the speaker regarding these 19 people. Speaker, what he did, he provided a notice stating that please answer why you didn't follow the orders of the party. So based on that notice, speaker can disqualify them also. So when the notice was sent to these 19 MLAs, Sachin Pilot team, what they did, they went and filed a case in Rajasthan High Court stating that we didn't oppose the party, we just objected to certain behavior of the party. So we didn't oppose it, we were not happy with the government, we were not happy with the few people in the party, we just complained it. So how can they consider our complaint as going against the party? So that was the contention of the Sachin Pilot team. So after listening all this, what Rajasthan High Court did, Rajasthan High Court stayed the notice of the legislature, Legislative Assembly Speaker. In Kyoto Holohan case in 1992, it was stated that whenever the anti-defection law comes into Supreme Court or High Court can provide their judgment with respect to the decisions of the speaker only after the speaker has given the final decision. Here speaker is yet to make a decision under anti-defection law, he just sent the notice. So in the interim stage, the judiciary can never come and stop any decisions of the speaker. So judiciary is having no jurisdiction to give an order to speaker. Okay. But what Rajasthan High Court did, Rajasthan High Court stayed the order, stayed the notice given to the 19 MLAs of Sachin Pilot. By doing so, Rajasthan High Court has breached the separation of powers. So it has ordered against the Kyoto Holohan's case judgment of Supreme Court. So by doing so, the separation of power is under very big question. So this staying away from political tickets article deals about the separation of powers. If you could see the main syllabus, separation of powers between various organs is there in the syllabus. So this article, from this article, what we can do means we can take certain examples. We can take certain example which talks about the separation of power. When we are writing any answer with respect to separation of powers, what we can do, we can quote this example in our answers. On like these examples are mainly various Supreme Court judgments and various instances where the separation of power has come into the question. we just discussed the Rajasthan speaker and the Rajasthan High Court issue, whether Rajasthan High Court is having the power to order the speaker. See, Rajasthan High Court may review the decision taken by the speaker in the anti-defection law. Only in anti-defection law, this judiciary is allowed to interfere in the matters of legislature's day-to-day happenings. So, in no way in law, a court can order a speaker to do in a certain way. So, by asking the speaker to stay the notices, Rajasthan High Court has created a very big problem now. So next, author here has shown the various cases. Like for example, in Kesav Singh case of Allahabad High Court, what happened when the legislature of Uttar Pradesh punished this Kesav Singh for the breaching of privilege of Uttar Pradesh legislature. What happened was Kesav Singh filed a case in Allahabad High Court, and Allahabad High Court stayed and provided bail to Kesav Singh. So here again, Allahabad High Court interfered in the matters of Uttar Pradesh Legislative Assembly. So what the Legislative Assembly Speaker did, he ordered the judges to be arrested, because they both are two different constitutional bodies and they should not interfere in each other's affairs. So Uttar Pradesh Assembly's Legislative Assembly Speaker ordered that marshals of the Legislative Assembly should arrest the judges of the Allahabad High Court. So when this issue was done, Allahabad High Court went and filed a case, and with the Supreme Court interventions and political intervention, that time this crisis was averted. But ever since that crisis, it is being followed that Supreme Court or High Court will never interfere in the decisions taken by the Speaker. So in Kyoto Holohan case, just now we saw that Speaker cannot intervene at interim stage, so that was ordered, and entirely this order was not followed by Rajasthan High Court at all. So in 1982, Supreme Court directed the Calcutta High Court judge to take up a matter for urgent hearing with respect to the Asaman versus Union of India case. In that case, Supreme Court ordered the Calcutta High Court judge to take up the case and do the hearing fast. But in the judgment, what Calcutta High Court judge said was Supreme Court and High Court are co-equal. Supreme Court was only co-equal with High Court as a constitutional court. Appellate powers of Supreme Court did not make it superior authority to the High Court as subordinate. So it was always co-equal. So when one constitutional authority cannot order another constitutional authority to do certain things, they can only request. Okay, if there is any legal provisions, then they can order. Without any legal provisions, they can never order. Here there is no legal provision for a Supreme Court judge to order a High Court judge, or here there is no legal provision where a judiciary can intervene in the decision of Speaker. There is no legal provision to support that. Without any legal provision, the judiciary should not come in. So that is the separation of power. So like that, in this article, the writer has pointed out various examples with respect to separation of power. This we can use. We can use these examples while writing the answers. This case, now it is under the judicial review, and Supreme Court is having the case. Supreme Court will take up for this hearing on 27th, that is Monday. So Monday, when it is taking up for hearing, Supreme Court should do the proper justice and preserve the separation of power. So separation of power is a very essence of the democracy, and it should be protected. So that is what the author is finally asking. So thank you guys. Today we discussed the 5 editorials of the week. You just note down the points which we discussed, and you verify whether you are also taking the same notes when you are reading the editorial. So use this video for understanding how to take notes from the editorial. Thank you.